All right, folks. Welcome back to Stream Catchers. I am one half of your hosts, AB.
And I'm Jack. What's going on, AB? How you doing?
Feeling good, feeling great, buddy. How about you?
I'm good as well. Good as well.
Good,
Ready to
good.
talk
Well,
about this episode.
yes. Loki, episode 6, the finale of season 1. Lots to unpack here. I've been looking forward to talking about this episode with you since I finished it at around 7:30 Wednesday morning. But
Yeah.
before we jump into everything, initial thoughts. What'd you think of the episode?
I want to defer to you. I want to know what you think
Oh,
first. Yeah.
okay, fair enough,
That's
fair
what you're.
enough. Well, let's do quick hits and recap. That way we've got that out of the way. Then I'll
Okay.
give my thoughts. Let's do that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it should be pretty simple, straightforward. We basically pick up exactly where we left off with episode 5. By the way, folks, should mention spoilers. We're assuming you've seen the episode, so if you haven't, cut us off right now. But we pick back up right at the end of episode 5, where Sylvie and Loki are walking up to a citadel at the end of time. They walk in and are greeted by Miss Minutes with the greatest jump scare in TV history. She offers them a deal to go back to the timeline and leave things as they are, and they decline. So they proceed forward. An elevator opens up, and it is He Who Remains. Was not specifically named in the show outside of He Who Remains, but we know that it was Jonathan Majors, who is Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania here in a few years. So back to the call that corner. We were. I'm happy. That was very satisfying to see. He gives us a rundown of really what's going on, and that everything has been predetermined, and that they were meant to be at that moment at that time. Essentially, Loki and Sylvie go back and forth as far as whether they should kill him or not. Kang, we'll call him Kang for the sake of convenience, tells them that if he dies, that it will essentially be multiversal madness, and many variants of him will enter the multiverse, and they will be far more dangerous than he is. The other option, leave him be, and they can take over the TVA and everything. Loki, realizing many more versions of this guy is a bad thing, tries to convince Sylvie to take that route. She seemingly is going to go that way. They share a tender kiss, and then she pulls a Loki on him, sends him back to the TVA through Kang's time pad, and stabs him in the heart, which leads to multiversal madness, for the lack of a better word. So lots more happened. Obviously, we'll get into, but that's the gist of the episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was so satisfying to see Kang in the elevator. The ending was it raises a lot of questions. Obviously, it answered a lot, but it raises a lot of questions as far as what's going to happen and what's coming. And obviously, we'll break that down. But I thought that Jonathan Majors crushed it. At first, I was not happy with how eccentric and goofy he was, but understanding that there are many variants and versions of him, that's not what we're going to see when he eventually is Kang the Conqueror. So I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it wrapped the season up well. What did you think?
Yeah, I have in my notes. Oh, good. Kang is a weirdo because he was definitely strange. I think that there was a lot. There's a lot to like in this episode. As a season finale, I'm a little bit disappointed. I didn't. I'm not head over heels with this episode like you are. I think it's the weakest of the 6, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think the best thing right now is that we're definitely promised a season 2, which I think will be great and necessary, obviously. I think that some of the questions that this episode poses are interesting, such as, I mean, I don't really want to dive into the end right away, but, the cliffhangery bits at the end where Loki gets thrown back into the TVA and it's not the TVA that he left from. I'm interested in that. I'm definitely interested in I'll say real Kang, the Kang that we're going to end up with, the Kang that we deserve, because this Kang was he was weird. He was a weirdo. I don't know. He was I think that he had a cool dramatic entrance with the elevator. I think that I don't have a problem with the actor. I think the actor suits Kang great, but I was hoping for something a little more menacing. I mean, he didn't even really care that they were there to kill him. I mean, it has functionality. I know he's old and tired, and he's ready to give it up. But I don't know. It's just not what I was hoping for.
I definitely get what you're saying. I think that I was more satisfied with the end of Falcon Winter Soldier than I was with Loki. And I actually think I would rank Falcon Winter Soldier a notch higher than Loki as a show so far. But I still enjoyed it. I was still satisfied that we got Kang. I totally see your point. I mean, when at first he was sitting there and he was doing that, and I was like, please tell me this is not what Kang is going to be in the MCU. I mean, I don't need another perfect Thanos, but as far as like a main villain, I need something a bit more than this.
More intensity, more burning evil, I guess.
As soon as he said that there will be many variants and many versions of him, which is consistent with the comics. That's kind of the whole MO of Kang, is there are many versions of Kang. As soon as he said that, I said, okay, we are going to get the menacing, evil, dark version of Kang. And I think that, the whole to answer sort of maybe a bit of a rebuttal, I would say that he wasn't worried about them being there. It sort of feels like his whole master plan, right? Because he's going to win no matter what they choose. Either he continues on or they kill him, and he comes back and he's right back where they started. That was his line. I'll see you soon. So it felt like he was he wins either way.
Yeah.
So
another I'll get my grievances out while the getting's good.
Sure, yeah.
I also thought that the majority of this episode was really slow, and I think that is kind of because of Kang's mannerisms. His whole monologue, his whole playing with the little time pad, Play-Doh, whatever you want to call that. That it just took up a lot of the meat of the episode, and even when they flash, they cut to the other scene, which would have been Mobius and Renslayer talking in her office. I really wasn't crazy about that scene as well. I think that Renslayer just sidestepped Mobius's effort to prune him. I don't know. It just seemed really lame. I don't know. That whole scene seemed a little out there. And then she disappears through a time portal saying she's looking for free will. It just, what does that even, what do you mean?
We'll get to that, because I know what you're talking about, and I have a few notes on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think them taking up the majority of the episode with we'll just say Kang talking and all that, and I definitely get wanting to have a big final battle. It's sort of that was what they implied at the end of episode 5, right? Like they had gone through Alioth, classic Loki had sacrificed himself. Here they are, there's the citadel, and then all this is you feel like you're about to see some crazy intense stuff, and we didn't get that. I mean, we got a pretty cool fight with Loki and Sylvie, but knowing that this is meant to set the table for the future, and it's also where we're going to get a season 2, and there's supposed to be dramatic fallout that is bigger than this show. You are kind of sacrificing the quality of the show itself, but it feels like they have bigger visions for the ending than just wrapping up this season nicely, and Mobius is on a jet ski.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's true.
I do agree. The Mobius Renslayer thing, that was very underwhelming. I got to be honest, I don't love the actor that plays Renslayer.
Okay.
I don't really believe her. Some of her delivery is just a little, I don't know, it's just underwhelming, I feel.
Okay.
So that in general I felt was a very but I'm glad they kind of just got it out of the way and then just dedicated the rest of the episode
Yeah.
to Kang and Loki and Sylvie. So um, let's talk Renslayer real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so she goes through that portal and she says, I'm in search of free will,
Mm-hmm.
and goes off. And then, of course, we'll have to also include, I think, the end where Loki comes back, walks up on Mobius and B-15, and they don't know who he is. And then he looks up and there's a statue of Kang the Conqueror. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Renslayer led to that. I feel like because there's a scene earlier in the episode where Miss Minutes hands Renslayer some notes or something on
Oh
the
yeah.
temp pad, and
Yeah.
the line is Renslayer says, "This isn't what I asked for." Miss Minutes says, "I know. He thinks this will be more useful." So
Mm-hmm.
Miss Minutes knows Kang is Kang. So that
Mm-hmm.
feels like Kang is giving her directions or maybe coordinates for him, or hey, go do this, take care of this task. So we know that Renslayer and Kang are tied in the comic. That's she is his love interest. So
Okay.
that to me feels like that what we will get the answer clearly, I think, in season 2.
Yeah.
But I feel like when she goes through that portal, something happens that leads to Kang ended up having a statue at the TVA versus instead of the timekeepers.
Yeah. So do you think that at the very end, when they don't recognize Loki, do you think he's in a different timeline, or do you think he's in the same timeline, having altered it somehow?
That was my biggest question coming out of this episode. I don't think it's an alternate TVA
Okay.
because Sylvie sends him back before she kills Kang, which is what leads to all of these Nexus events and all these
Right.
overlapping Nexus events.
And
So
they're happening there.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do feel like that there is just one TVA, although I don't think I would be um, disappointed or anything if there were multiple TVAs.
Yeah.
But it does feel like that event of killing Kang and combined with potentially Renslayer doing whatever Kang sent her to do is what caused them to not know who Loki was. Maybe it's a memory reset or a complete time reset, something to do. I don't know exactly what it is, but what
Yeah.
did you have any theories on that?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just real confused about it, and not particularly in a good way. I think that I dig a good cliffhanger, and I'm not curious about this one. You know what I mean?
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that I just feel like it's something that's going to be resolved really quickly in the next, in the first episode of season 2. And maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe it'll be a cool explanation, but I just don't see this being a decent cliffhanger. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
Sorry to
play.
be sorry to be a bummer,
No,
man. I'm
no,
glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you enjoyed the episode. Like I said, I mean, there is a lot to like about this episode. It's just, I don't know. There's I just feel I feel like this episode would have been a good penultimate episode. I think if there was
sure.
one more episode after this, I'd be a little more pleased.
That's fair. And yeah, I mean, I really liked it, but when I go online and I see everybody reacting and I feel like the internet really overblows some of these Marvel shows where I walked away feeling satisfied, but I wouldn't put this very high up in the order of Marvel rankings. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's in the bottom half of, when you include movies and the other shows.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like all the questions we had going into this episode were more or less answered. And I'm really excited to see what the fallout is, not just in season 2, but with the movies that we know are coming up.
Yeah, with the multiverse.
With the multiverse, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously we know Multiverse of Madness is you would assume that there's going to be some implications in that. A
Yeah.
lot of rumors and theories about Spider-Man with potential seeing other Spider-Man from the movies. We already know that Edward Molina and Jamie Foxx are going to be in that movie. I'm still not convinced that we'll see Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, but with this, it would be I could see it happening a bit more after seeing this, I would say.
For sure.
Um, I actually wanted to run this by you too. I know we're kind of stepping away from the episode itself, but just trying to think of other movies that would have some implications of this fallout here. I think a perfect movie to have some sort of tie with this, like a loose tie, would be Black Panther. Knowing
Ooh,
that
okay.
Chadwick is gone,
Hmm.
and they said they weren't going to recast him, you could pull a different Black Panther from a different timeline, and that would be the best way to sort of bring a new one in, short of making Shuri the new Black Panther, which I would assume is what's going to happen. Um,
I'd be all
I
for that. I think that'd be a really good idea, to be honest with you.
I would feel really underwhelmed if they did that. I would.
Really?
I
Okay.
would. Yeah. I know that in the comics she became Black Panther. Um, I just wouldn't believe it. She doesn't.
Do you
To
think
me,
it's
she doesn't
just
look.
too
She
on the
doesn't look
nose obvious, or
a little bit of that, but a little bit of I just don't believe that character is the lead.
what if it was
I
like
mean,
Okoye?
I would see that. I
That
would
would be
see
better, right?
Okoye. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would see that. Okoye, Mbaku,
Hmm.
even I don't remember her name, but his love interest from the line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would see that. But Shuri has just always been a side character that had a very small role. She was the tech person. I mean, you could dedicate the entire movie to establishing her as
Hmm.
Black Panther, but I don't know. I selfishly I would like it T'Challa. Um,
Yeah,
and,
same.
and it is what it is. But I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe this is a way that they could recast him without recasting him.
yeah, yeah. I guess that could be the safe solution. It'd be kind of interesting. We'll
Yeah.
have to revisit that when Black Panther 2 comes out.
Right. Yeah. When we start to learn more about it, and I mean,
Yeah,
there's really not a lot of info on it. So.
yeah. So let's shift gears here. Let's talk about one of my favorite things in the episode, and that
Ooh.
is right before they meet Kang, right before he steps out of the elevator. We're in this big giant like ballroom, and there are four statues of timekeepers. You see the three timekeepers that we have seen, and we see one statue destroyed. What's your take on that?
Well, I know in the comics there was a fourth timekeeper that either died or something happened.
Okay.
Because in the comics, the timekeepers aren't androids; they're real things and then at the end of time, there is a being known as He Who Remains. So they kind of
Hmm.
just combined He Who Remains and Kang. But there was a fourth timekeeper in the comics, and maybe this was just their way to sort of tip the cap to that character. I don't think that it was. I know your theory is that Kang was once a timekeeper. I think that they have proven that that's not the case,
Yeah.
given that he is the one that ended the first multiversal war.
Okay.
But I think that was more just an Easter egg towards the diehard comic fans.
Okay. I'm glad that you knew that because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I think in my head I was kind of making more of that than I should have, but I definitely pointed at the screen and went me. I didn't think I said.
I had to watch one of those Easter egg videos on YouTube to catch it because I didn't even catch it when I watched the episode.
Oh
I
really?
was
Yeah, yeah,
I was too worried about who the actual person was
yeah.
because they go in and then it's Miss Minutes, that jump scare, and I'm like,
Hmm.
if Miss Minutes is behind the TVA, that
Well,
would
that
be
was that was what
that would
Kimmy
be
wanted.
that would have been far worse than Sharon
Yeah,
Carter. And
yeah.
you know
Oh my
what?
God, that would have sucked.
Last week when we were sort of trying to speculate on who it was going to be, there was a part of me that was like, what if they just make it Miss Minutes? But it was so outrageous that I was like, I'm not even going to say it because it would be too dumb.
Hmm.
And then when she pops up, I'm like, oh, I swear to God, if Miss Minutes is the
Yeah. So as soon as she popped up, I thought that Miss Minutes was going to be like that one extra layer between, the Lokis and Kang, because that's what the Timekeepers ended up being. That's what
yeah,
Renslayer was at one point. Like, there's just all these layers. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of Miss Minutes in this episode because she talked about she promised Loki and Sylvie basically all they've ever wanted if they take the deal, which I assume the deal was to take Kang's place because that's what he wanted, right?
Well, because what she offers them is Loki can go back, he beats the Avengers, he kills Thanos, he rules
Right.
Asgard, Sylvie can go back and live her life as she wanted. If that was the case, they wouldn't have been able to just sit up in that citadel where
Right.
Kang was. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was. I'm wondering if she was offering them those things in return for leaving, and then
Oh,
Kang, when they arrived up to him, he came up with a new deal of his own.
okay. I hadn't thought of it in that way.
Yeah, that was the way I interpreted it. But I don't know.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, yeah, that your way makes more sense.
I also, when she mentioned "He Who Remains," I was a little worried that that was who it was going to be. This just like old, decrepit person.
Like some wizard in a tower.
Yeah, that was just kind of, yeah, that was a one thing, and they were going to beat him, and that was going to be, and because I was hoping for Kang, and
Yeah.
then of course when it was Jonathan Majors, I was like, oh, at first like,
Hmm.
is that him? I think it's him. That's him. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's Kang. I was, so
Yeah.
it was like,
I wonder if this was their plan from the very beginning, or if they went in this direction because of how attached to the Kang idea people were.
no, they knew, yeah, because he'd already been casted for
Right.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and I feel like they have alluded to the fact that he was going to be the next big Thanos level villain for Marvel.
Hmm.
So knowing that they were coming into Loki, this was supposed to be the show that was going to launch the next phase of the MCU more so than what we've already seen, Black Widow, WandaVision, all that stuff. It does feel like, yeah, I don't think that they were like, there's just no way that 3 weeks ago they're, hey Jonathan, can you come in and film
I guess
this?
that's true. Yeah, because
You
there's
know what I
quite a
mean?
bit of yeah,
Yeah, no,
there's
that
quite a
that
bit of
this
dialogue and
was
stuff.
this was premeditated, yeah, for sure. So,
Okay.
but it was, I was really satisfied that he was there, and I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm going over my notes here.
Oh, we found out what that Nexus event was, when Loki and Sylvie were on Lamentus. That
Okay.
that so I interpreted it as, when we saw it at first, I interpreted it as that romantic connection. And of course, you said, no, I don't see that being the case. And you didn't even think there was a romantic link between them. Um,
I think that it was possible that we were reading in too much romance because we're conditioned to.
right. And I think we were both a little wrong on this one, because obviously we saw the kiss, so there was a little bit of romance there, but that wasn't the Nexus event. I think the Nexus event is them joining forces, because
Okay.
them joining forces leads them to the end of time, where they kill Kang and set off this multiversal madness.
Yeah. Which you would say is a deviation of the timeline.
Yes.
I guess the ultimate deviation of
The
the timeline.
ultimate deviation of the time. Exactly. That's the only thing that would set up a Nexus event in Apocalypse.
Okay.
But it's still a
It's
little, because if they die in the Apocalypse, then it's a
it's
hard
so
sell.
easy to use this show's logic against itself because
Yeah.
of the Nexus events and like the sacred timeline, the idea of destiny. It's just so easy to play with. Like why? Yeah, like they set up the fact that your variants could hide in apocalypses because they couldn't affect anything and nothing mattered. And then they didn't affect anything and nothing would have mattered if they hadn't gotten rescued. But somehow their Nexus event was them joining forces and then they were rescued. Like that's like them getting rescued. It should have been the Nexus event then, right?
I would suppose. And then I guess the only thing I can say to that is, when we get to this conversation with Kang, Loki, and Sylvie, and he is proving that he has determined everything and he had planned for them to be there. So I guess you could say that he set off the Nexus event to save them. But then
I don't hate
It's
that. I don't hate that because this is, I mean, we're just pawns in Kang's grand scheme, right? So
exactly.
he can pull the strings and say that it's a Nexus event and, you know, cause whatever Nexus event he causes. I mean, he has full and, you know, total control over the TVA, so he could have just put that spike in their weird 70s future computers, and I don't know. Yeah, it's weird to speculate on.
Yeah, I know. I felt myself getting a little annoyed at him talking about how he has predetermined everything, because then it's like, well, how do they kill you if you're planning everything? But then, of course, they get that moment where they cross the threshold at the end of time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a little bit more, I guess, believable. But that was one of my biggest gripes with this is how easy it is to contradict this show because of how much focus they put on time and multiverses. And you're
Yeah.
at first you're telling me there's one sacred timeline, but then how could there be timelines on top of it if there's just the one? And
Yeah.
then like, why is this a Nexus event but this isn't? It's it that what it does become hard to follow. It does become hard to follow, and it's you know I saw an article where somebody had sort of had the same grievance, and he compared it to Looper, if you remember the movie with
It's been a
JGL and Bruce
while, but
Willis.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while, but his whole thing was they didn't focus too much on the rules of time. They just really focused on the characters.
Yeah.
And if Loki had done that, then this, and not that they didn't focus on characters and have character development, we got plenty of that, but it just feels like they put a little bit too much into the rules of time that made
Yeah.
that took me out of it at times. No pun intended.
Hmm. Well, I think that something that Looper did right that Loki did wrong was in Looper and a lot of other time travel stories will do is they'll pose time travel. They'll give you some rules with time travel, and then the characters within the universe don't know how it's going to work when they affect it in a certain way.
Right.
And that's where Looper was great because nobody really knew what was going to happen if, you know, if stuff went sideways, and it did. Whereas with Loki, you have the TVA, which is all about time manipulation and correcting the sacred timeline, and they have all these rules, and they're supposed to know all these rules, and they sort of breadcrumb along these rules for us to eat up, and then they go and break them in a way that doesn't really make sense, and then they never answer the questions.
Fair. Yeah. It's and so that's why a lot of people love this show, and I really liked it. I enjoyed watching it every week. But
Same.
it's not without its flaws and it's not without grievances. And I hope that they, moving forward, learn from that as they start to dive more into multiverses. And with Kang coming back, they're going to deal more with time travel. So hopefully they can really hammer out their rules and do the best they can to not break them. Because
Yeah.
if so, it could really hurt this entire shared universe.
Yeah. And I am a huge time travel fan. I'm a huge sucker for time travel. I loved you know, I've loved almost every time travel story that I've seen, read, whatever. But you know, this I think that if I were watching Loki, having been just a time travel fan, I would have been disappointed. You know, it definitely took a Marvel fan to enjoy this show.
Sure, sure. You never know. It's very likely that as we see these other movies come out, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, the next Avengers movie, Loki season 2, we look back and we have a better appreciation for this.
Yeah.
I as much as I enjoyed it coming out of it, I do have some grievances and some questions, and but again, hopefully that is
Yeah.
addressed moving forward.
I think I think the functionality of this episode introducing the actor, what do you say his name was? I've already forgotten.
Oh, Jonathan
For
Majors.
Jonathan Majors as Kang, even though this isn't the Kang that we're going to see a lot of. Now we know in the future when they show his face, now we know exactly who he is going to be. You know
Yep.
exactly who he is, and he doesn't have to do a big long, you know, introduction. He doesn't have to do a Thanos style, you know, end credits, you know, tidbit. Like we know who Kang is when we're already he who remains was scared of him, so we should be too.
For sure. And I mean, yeah, if you look at that statue at the end where he's actually in that Kang uniform, he does look menacing. He looks
Yeah.
like a bad dude. And I agree. And I had been saying all along that if we get Kang, it's probably going to be a really small thing. This was much bigger than a small thing, but I agree. I think it was a really good way to bring him in. And by the time we see him, but I mean, similar to Thanos, because by the time we got to Infinity War, we had seen him in 2 post-credit scenes and we had seen him a little bit in Guardians. So by the time we got to Thanos, we knew, hey, this is a big bad dude. He's able to step right in, and we were off the races. And we'll, by the time we get to the next Kang movie or show, whatever his next appearance will be, it'll be, I think, oh, here he is. There's Kang, and it'll be a pretty cool moment.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the disagreement between Sylvie and Loki.
Okay.
So Loki stops Sylvie from killing Kang. Sylvie wants what's hers. She wants revenge. She wants answers. She wants to kill Kang. And Loki just suggests that they talk things over, that they just want to figure out what is the best thing to do, not be hasty and all this. And that triggers Sylvie, and we get a nice Loki versus Loki showdown. I was disappointed. Okay, so it makes sense, and I kind of like the sentiment that Loki can't be trusted and Sylvie can't trust. That was kind of a cool line, a cool not message. I'm not sure, theme, I guess.
Sure.
But it made me sad. It made me sad because I like that duo. I like them working as a team, and I guess that is technically a good thing about the episode, that it made me feel that way because it was supposed to make me feel that way. But I don't know. What's your take on it? How did you feel about them fighting?
Well, I liked it. I liked the fight itself. It was really well done. It was really the only action we got in the episode. It's kind of our final battle, so to speak. I thought it made sense. I think that the whole point of the show, even from the first episode where Loki's watching his parents die in front of him before they're actually supposed to, he's losing people around him. He doesn't really have anybody. He's always stabbed people in the back. He's there's the whole thing with Lady Sif saying you're always going to be alone, and he makes friends with Mobius, and that falls through, and that's been consistent with him. And I think that this is another sort of step in that, and that he finally has someone, and instead of him being the one to stab someone in the back, he's the one that gets stabbed in the back. And I think it was a nice callback to that scene that they had where they're wrapped around the blanket in episode 5, where she thinks he's going to betray her. She's the one that ultimately betrays him. It is a little sad, but I think that you were really hoping for a nice, well wrapped up episode with the bow on top, and
I don't know, man. I wouldn't go that far. I wanted more. I definitely wanted more closure than we got. I didn't think that it would be. I wanted it to be a little closed, but definitely open ended. And I feel like this was just cliffhanger here, cliffhanger there, just like whatever cliffhanger we can possibly put out there, keep paying for Disney Plus for another year, we'll be back.
Right. Yeah, and that's fair. I think that if they hadn't given us that season 2 teaser in the mid-credits scene, I would be much more disappointed with how it ended, but knowing that more is coming eventually. And again,
there wasn't a mid-credits scene, was there? No,
there wasn't a mid-credits scene. It was just like Loki will come back season 2.
Oh, okay. That
was all that it was.
I just scrubbed through and hoped that there was a scene, didn't see a scene. Okay.
No, yeah, that was all that there was. So, and again, man, I think that we have Spider-Man coming out. We have Doctor Strange coming out. Ant-Man will be out in 2023. There's still a lot there. I liked Loki and his full-on development. I think that his entire arc in the show, remember when we start this off, he is fresh off that loss against the Avengers, so he is peak evil Loki. And by the end of it, he has been rejected, betrayed by the person he loved the most, And as he's sitting there dejected at the TVA, he sort of takes a second and he gets up and the first thing he thinks to do is to find Mobius and say, "Hey, listen, we messed up. We got to stop this guy."
Yeah.
And that to me shows that he is not this evil person anymore. He is a legitimate good guy, probably even more of a good guy than the Loki that we saw die in Infinity War. I mean, that's as good to character development, I think, as you can see that we've had so far, at least in these shows.
Mm-hmm.
I liked where we ended with Loki.
It was kind of an
Character.
ambitious swing, right? Because they have to take this evil character, pluck him out of the height of his evilness in 2012 New York, and then make a good guy out of him, and they did it really quickly,
really well, in a way that it's very believable. I think that you give him somebody, you give him a love interest, you give him a best friend, a buddy cop. You give him a family, so to speak, with classic Loki and Kid Loki and Alligator Loki. And
yeah, they even gave him a pet, little alligator
they even
Loki.
gave him a pet. They gave him a new dagger. I mean,
That's
but he doesn't have anymore because it's at the Citadel. Yeah, I really like the growth of Loki and the Sylvie though. I'm glad that she didn't die. We talked about that. I thought she might. I'm glad she didn't. I'm glad that she will seemingly stick around, and I really do want to see how that falls, what the fallout is for that.
I think she'll die in season 2.
Perhaps.
I mean, I thought she was going to die in this episode, so I won't get points. Like I won't be featured on the Called It corner if she dies in season 2. I can't just say she's going to die. She's going to die, and then until she dies, I win. Like that's not how it's going to work. But like, I don't see her fitting into the grander scheme of the MCU. I think that she's just a character for Loki, and I think that's fine.
No, sure. I mean, I think the same for Mobius and B-15. I mean, everybody short of Loki and Kang. I think they're specifically for the show. I would say maybe Runslayer too. You might see her paired with Kang in an Avengers movie, unless she is killed as a vehicle to further enrage Kang. I don't know, but
that would work. That'd be really good, actually.
Yeah, I could see that happening in season 2. But I would agree. I don't see Sylvie making it. Again, I said it last week. She's not going to be in one of the big final, Avengers huddles with the rest of the team. And they've got guns and arrows and lightning, and she's standing there with her dagger. I don't see that being the case.
So, switching gears again, what do you think's next for this universe, or I guess just the TVA in general? What do you think is next for the TVA now that time is broken and the multiverse is seemingly being hurled into another war?
That's really tough. It's really tough because obviously we were left with Kang is the statue there rather than the Timekeepers. And Mobius and B-15 don't know who Loki is. So I think that there's got to be some form of addressing that and like what is going to actually happen with the TVA. But I mean, as far as I don't think it's going to be up to the TVA to fix this. I think that we're going to see a lot of this in Doctor Strange. I would say more so than Loki. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of fallout in this in Loki, but I wonder if Loki season 2 is now they've got to find Sylvie again.
Oh, maybe.
She's the
new
villain.
Mission, same as the old. Got to find Sylvie.
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, they still have access, to all time, always. So
yeah.
I think they'd be the perfect soldiers to fight against these evil Kangs, I guess, or I don't know, but also sorcerers. That's a good point too. Sorcerers would make better soldiers than Minutemen. But I don't know. The TVA definitely has the know-how, so maybe they'll bring in. Maybe now that they recognize that there is no more sacred timeline, they can be a not so secret organization, I guess.
Perhaps, yeah. That's the thing is that we don't just have a few Nexus branches. We have a whole. I mean, they were overlapping all over the place, and it's funny too because when we go back to episode 2 and Sylvie had dropped all those whatever they were, those machines, and that had set off all those Nexus events. that seemed like that was the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, it
And
did.
this is that on crack. I mean, this is
Yeah, this is the multiverse for sure.
I think the thing I'm most looking forward to out of this is Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. I don't know. I just don't know what to think about Loki season 2, and I don't think that we will have much to think about until we see those two movies.
For sure. Yeah. I'm heavily anticipating a Spider-Man trailer like in the next week or so.
I thought it might be Friday, this past Friday, just because Loki had finished up, and
Man, it would have been so cool if it would have been attached to the episode. If it would have been like a mid-credits little trailer, like how they did with Avengers at the end of, was it Captain America?
Cap
Oh
1.
man, that was so good. It was a little cheesy, but it was super, super good.
It was. I remember seeing that in theater. I remember we saw that in theaters way back then. And they just, because, man, if you go back to 2011, the hype for Avengers and this like uncertainty of, is it going to be good, and just seeing that trailer.
There was just nothing like it. There was no, like, that was the impossible crossover that was just like, it's happening.
Exactly. And getting that teaser at the end was a lot of fun. Yeah, I am heavily waiting for a Spider-Man teaser, and we've talked about it both on the show and off the show. There's all these rumors of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe. I don't fully believe it because I've seen Andrew Garfield for sure deny it multiple times, but Jonathan Majors was asked if he was going to be in this about 3 weeks ago, I think. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And lo and behold, here he was. So there's also, there was a leaked, not really a leak, because it was more of an action figure of a new Spider-Man suit where it's like gold and black, and it's pretty cool looking. And it's the action figure. And then in the background it looks like a shot from the movie. It's very blurry in certain areas, but it's obviously New York. But if you look really closely, it looks like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I mean, it's
really.
It does. Man. It's like, wow. So
I don't know. That's a little much for me to follow.
That by itself is very far-fetched. That's a pipe dream, I think. But
yeah, God, you said it's just on the packaging of
not the packaging.
Figure?
It's I can look it up and I can text it to you, but I guess that wouldn't really help our listeners. I could put a link in the. I'll tweet it out. I'll tweet it out, and our Twitter.
Okay.
Twitter's in the show notes. You guys can see that. And then I'll send it to you after we get off the pod. But
okay, cool. Cool.
It's it by itself, sure, no, but knowing that we have Doc Ock from the Raimi movies and we have Jamie Foxx from the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
How can you not? They're making us want it, you know. I mean, they're I don't know. I feel like it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen, right?
There's also this rumor, and I hate talking about this stuff because a lot of it sounds like just some silly thing I saw on a forum that Googled, you know, and like these, like, oh my God, they're gonna have Michael Keaton Batman's gonna be an event, you know, like that's how far fetched it sounds sometimes. But there was a leak. A very reputable insider who had all. I sound foolish right now. I know I do, but
you sound like you need like a gigantic like bulletin board with thumbtacks and string and just like
this
dark
insider.
circles.
This insider had leaked something, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a pretty big deal, and it was correct.
Okay.
And so this insider also says that at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier, where they have Sharon Carter on the phone, they also shot a video or a scene rather with Willem Dafoe on the other end as Norman Osborn, and she's going to sell the government secrets and weapons to him for Oscorp. And that was supposed to be the first nod and tie-in to Spider-Man Far From Home. Again, very far
in our universe, though.
In our universe, so
it would have been
this low key takes place chronologically before Falcon Winter Soldier.
Oh, it does? Oh, yeah. I guess it would, because I mean the events of the TVA are in real time, right? Well, I don't know, because they're so outside the timeline, though. You know what I mean? Because he comes right from 2012 into the TVA, and the TVA knows about everything that happens post Endgame or post Infinity War at the very
Well,
least.
Marvel has listed it as it takes place before WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier
Okay.
chronologically.
Okay.
That's straight from Marvel Entertainment.
Okay.
So we'll just go by that. So maybe again, that's such a far. I hate even talking about it on the podcast, and I don't even have the full on thing that I read, but it would lead you to believe that there is more to. They also weren't trying to leak Edward Molina being in this movie. That was an accident. Like that wasn't supposed to be known. So,
well, also, here's an argument for you. It could have also been Willem Dafoe as as Norman Osborn from the MCU that wasn't Green Goblin. You know what I mean? Because we also have J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU that is separate from the Raimi movie. So I mean, it could be. It just so happens that this universe, just like with the Lokis and the variant Lokis, like these ones happen to look identical. Some don't. The Peter Parkers aren't identical, but the Norman Osborns and the J. Jonahs are.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just don't want to go to Spider-Man in December and then have a bunch of egg on my face and be like, well, they didn't have any of these people, and it was just Doc Ock and Electro. Those were the villains. I don't think that's the case though.
And they don't even have like an actual part. They're just like in a billboard somewhere in the background, Easter egg in it.
Yeah. Well, and you know what too though, if you look at the Morbius trailer, if you remember that, where they had
oh man, I haven't watched that since it came out.
Michael Keaton's at the end there as Vulture. Yeah. So there's something there, man. There's something there.
Yeah. I like it when Marvel does stuff like that. It's always exciting.
I agree. So I mean, there's a lot of fallout. I mean, I think we know Kang is going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think he's going to be in the next big Avengers movie too. I don't know.
I mean, I think it would be a shame if he wasn't, right? Like I thinking about like the next big bad after Thanos, the only other direction that I could see them going is like Galactus or something like that.
I would say maybe Doctor Doom, but Galactus I could see too.
Oh, Doom would be good too. Doom would actually be better. Oh, I love Doctor Doom.
I know. So we'll see. There's some people speculating that maybe the next big Avengers movie is Secret Wars. If you're not familiar with Secret Wars, it's basically different versions of the heroes throughout the entire multiverse come into one universe, and it's like this big battle royale. It's brought to brought in by the Beyonders, I guess the person that brings them together. So it would make sense now that we have a multiverse. And
that's true. That'd be crazy. A super ambitious project, but who else but Marvel could put that together?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, when you look at Marvel, obviously you have the people in our current timeline, but they also now have the rights to the X-Men. That they could bring in those actors. We've already seen Evan Peters, even though it wasn't really Quicksilver. But you could bring in the Inhumans. They had a show for the Inhumans, and you have.
I never watched that show.
I heard it was terrible. I haven't seen it either, but
I heard it was bad, and I never tried it.
Yeah, they're here though. So they have those guys. They have Daredevil. They have Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. They have a lot that they could bring in, and now that this is the multiverse is crazy now, they definitely could go that route.
That'd be neat. That would be neat. I'm trying to think. I had one other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be a journey, so stick with me on this one.
Okay, so Perrier.
Okay, so before Loki, we had one version of time travel, and it was through the quantum realm. And I think that this show has stayed true to the quantum realm being the only means of time travel, and here's why. When they went into the citadel at the end of time, and you see, this what is, I guess, a realization or a I don't know. You see the sacred timeline, like you could see time itself all around you, and then when Sylvie kills Kang, it branches off and everything. So you see the timeline around you. It's kind of this celestial galaxy looking place. It's kind of hard to put into words, but I think that they are traveling into the quantum realm when they go into this castle, I guess, palace, whatever you want to call it. But when they're inside the castle, everything's kind of like a dull, like a black, like a it's definitely decrepit, and everything's just real dark, and they have this splintering light color everywhere, and you can see it in the statue that fell down, and you can see it on the device that Kang has.
His tempad.
They didn't. His tempad. For I don't think he actually referred to it as his tempad, but that's what it is. That's how he uses it. And
Sylvie called it one.
Oh, did he? Oh, did she? Okay.
She did.
Well, I think that is. I think that's the technology that the timekeepers or the Minutemen are using to make these portals and to travel through time and everything.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I said that last week, where when they've enchanted Eliath and they look in to that citadel and everything around it, it does look like the quantum realm, right?
I think that's it.
And I've mentioned this a couple of times now, that if you go back to Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's a blink and you miss it moment, but there's a city in the very far background of the quantum realm while they're in there trying to get Janet out. And it looks a lot like Chronopolis, which is Kang's, I guess, city that he's, resides in, I suppose. I don't know what you would say there. So
chills out, maxes, relaxes.
It shoots b-ball outside and but yeah, so I mean, I think that's a pretty fair assumption and guess. I guess we just don't really, they really didn't fully explain the technology they use. They just sort of said, here's what we have, believe us. And I mean, I kind of did. I didn't really put much more thought into it. I would say that if that's not the case, if they're not using quantum realm technology or energy or anything like that, it would just be the explanation that we are the TVA, we govern time, and we can do what we want with it, which I also would just accept, I suppose.
Yeah.
But knowing that Janet Pym was in there for so long and then absorbed power from the quantum realm, who's to say that the TVA didn't acquire some sort of energy or technology from the quantum realm that allowed them to travel through time without having to have Pym particles or things like that?
Right.
So,
yeah, I think it has something to do with this quantum realm material, resource, whatever you want to call it, that makes up this castle. I think that powers the TVA devices.
That's fair. I mean, when you look at Ant-Man and the Wasp, we know Kang is going to be in it, and it's called Quantum Mania, which would lead you to believe that there is going to be some heavy use of the quantum realm in this. So, I think that's a fair guess. I think it's a pretty good theory.
Yeah. Do you think that do you think time travel will ever play a role in the MCU, like in the movies? Like, I know it'll be in Loki season 2. That's just kind of the nature of his story now. But do you think it'll ever be in a movie? Do you think it'll be in Doctor Strange? I mean, he's the keeper of the time stone. So I mean,
well, that's destroyed.
Oh, that's true. That's destroyed. Never mind. But he's still got Quantum Mania, so the quantum realm, you still have the time travel of the quantum realm.
But will they use it to travel through time, or will they just be in the quantum realm?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I don't think that they'll dive right back into time travel, especially coming hot off of Endgame, the biggest time travel story that the MCU's had.
Sure, they might loosely use it, but I don't think it'll be used as a main plot vehicle. I think it. For example, let's just say that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in Spider-Man coming up. Maybe that's the way. And we have, this is Andrew Garfield from 2014. This is Tobey Maguire from 2007. That might be a loose use of time travel, but I don't think that it's that. I don't think we're going to get any more time heists or plots centered around traveling through time.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't really either. I think that Quantum Mania is going to focus more on the quantum realm as a whole, not as a time travel, as a means of time travel.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd like to be hopeful. I'd like to. I don't know. Maybe Guardians. Maybe Guardians would be a good one for some time travel. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know how they. I don't know what they would need to travel through time. Well, Gamora.
Gamora shenanigans. Yeah, that's the only
That'll be
thing I can
really
think of.
interesting to see if there is any implications for having this variant Gamora running around in
Yeah.
2023.
Hmm.
I don't know. To me, that just feels like the ultimate variant Nexus event.
Yeah.
All the stuff that could be together.
We've also got Nebula stuff, don't we? Didn't future Nebula kill past Nebula? Isn't that
She
how that went?
did. She did, but given the past Nebula, and that we're really getting into the nitty gritty of time travel here, given that past Nebula has been taken off of her trajectory, they also did confirm that if you go back in time and kill baby Hitler, that doesn't stop that from happening. You're just affecting one timeline.
Yeah.
So, like 2014, where Thanos and all of them came out of, that whole timeline is completely branched off from
Yeah.
the main timeline. So Nebula killing her past self, it's not like Back to the Future where you can cease to exist.
Yeah.
You just, that timeline is just now ruined.
Hmm.
Which I actually kind of have a theory about that,
Okay.
because how is that not a Nexus event, right? Like, how is something that monumental where you're taking all of these people from a certain timeline and pulling them out of it, and now they're gone. So now everything that we have just seen
Talking
isn't
about
going to
Thanos and his army.
Thanos, Ebony Maw, all of them.
Yeah.
We know what they're supposed to go on and do, and then
Mhm.
they fast forward to 2023. So there's a 9-year gap there of stuff they're just not going to do. How is that not a Nexus event? My
Yeah.
theory is Tony, when he snaps, isn't ceasing them to exist. He's just snapping them back to their time.
Okay.
And he's just doing it at a point where maybe it's just right before they find out that Nebula and Rhodey are on Morag.
Okay. But I have to poke holes in it because, just for argument's sake, then Thanos goes back to his timeline with the knowledge of how he loses both time, or how he is destined to lose if he travels forward, and also, like, I don't know, he would know. Oh boy, that's tricky. This is too tricky.
It's tough. It's tough, and that is my biggest gripe with Loki, is how many holes you can poke into stuff that's happened. At least in Endgame.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. I don't know. We have very much gone off the rails and abandoned.
Oh, I know.
Loki.
Yeah.
So,
happy finale, everyone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What I do want to talk about, that opening signature.
It was cool. That
Wasn't
was
that?
one of the highlights of the episodes, in my opinion. Did you watch with the subtitles on?
No, but I caught everything. I mean,
Okay, if you watch it with the subtitles on, it's a little easier to follow, because those quotes go back to back to back to back to back, and they show who their quotes are attributed to, and I think it's pretty neat.
yeah. So shout out to that if you're listening and you want to see what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really cool, nice touch. It made me really like want to binge Marvel again. just
Oh
hearing all
yeah,
those random quotes, and you
yeah,
had the song that played at the end of at the end of Endgame, and
yep,
it was fun. That was a lot of fun.
yeah. It was a really good idea.
Yeah. It got me really excited for the episode, and I no lie, I kind of want to binge through Marvel again.
Well, Kimmy and I are at it. We're into phase 2.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Always fun to go back and watch all the movies again.
I agree. Yeah, they're a blast. So I think that's all I've got on Loki. I don't know. Do you have anything else?
No, that covers everything that I needed to say.
All right. Well, we thanks for sticking with us, folks. If you made it to the end, I know we really went on a tangent there and talked, but I to defend that tangent, I would say that this does have heavy implications on the movies we just talked about, future Avengers movies. I mean, this really was the catalyst, the launching point, whatever you want to say, to what we're going to see in the MCU moving forward. So
yeah, this episode definitely begs all the questions at the end. It makes everybody want to speculate what's next with the MCU.
Yeah. So whether or not we'll see some fallout in Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, whatever it's going to be, it's all going to start here, I think. And I think this was the first thing post Endgame that felt like a true looking towards the future.
Okay.
I think that everything, we obviously got some stuff at the end of WandaVision. We got some stuff at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier. We have a new Captain America. Spider-Man was a lot of fun, but it felt like J.
But it wasn't until like those very, very last moments. Whereas with Loki, it's like this whole thing is really important.
Was to set the table for everything. So again, thank you folks for sticking with us to the end. Let us know what you thought and how you feel about this episode, this season, and the future of the MCU. It's whether you loved, liked, or hated this episode, I think that it does make you excited for what's coming next. So again, links to all of our stuff in the show notes. If you can share, if you enjoy this show, share it with your friends and Facebook, Twitter, all those things. It really helps us out a lot. If you want to support us, that's the best way to do it, I think. So thank you guys. Take care. Have a great week.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you later.